This is Beat 'em Down from Cult 45, the movie podcast, and you are listening to the Geek World All-Stars podcast network.
Kept waiting for you guys to ask who our favorite superhero was.
Did you have an answer prepared?
I was thinking about it for a little bit earlier, and I'm more of an X-Men fan, and primarily like a Jim Lee, early '90s X-Men is my thing, and I think I have to go with Gambit probably.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what, I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people.
Right.
You want people to care. You want to strike emotions. And I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one too.
Quarter pounder with cheese in France, Mickey? What? Royale with cheese, Mickey. Yeah. I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey everyone, you're listening to Superhero Speak, and I'm your host Dave.
And John.
And this week, boys and girls, JD is actually out. He is currently flying to Spokane to do coaching some wrestling matches. So he will not be joining us this week, but we have in his place two wonderful guests in an effort always to bring something new and different to the table. We have the creative minds behind an independent film out there that is known as Chasing Molly, and we have the writer of the film and star, Shelley Pack. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having us on the show.
No problem. And the director, Josh Sutherland.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, thanks again for having us.
No problem. So we'll start out simple, and of course, everyone is wondering, can you give us the elevator pitch to Chasing Molly?
Sure. So I'm a paranormal con artist, and as I'm cleaning you of your demons, I'm also cleaning you of your valuables, until one day I accidentally rip off 500 pills of Molly from LA's biggest drug kingpin, Kurt Angle, played by Kurt Angle. And then chaos ensues, of course, as I have to save my kidnapped partner. My kidnapped partner is Jim Cashman, otherwise known as Jamie the Progressive. So in every scene, you'll be like, wait a second, I know that person. So we've gotten some really great comedians to come on board of Chasing Molly. It's really, really been a fun production. But that's kind of the gist of the movie. It's, I kind of run the gauntlet, to save my partner. And, Kurt Angle plays the main villain in the movie.
Cool. So, I guess since you gave us the elevator pitch, we'll start with you. I'm always kind of curious. Is writing and acting something you've always wanted to do? Yes.
I've always known that I want to be, an actress, a performer. And as like my background's in improv comedy, but I also really want to make content. So the writing came from wanting to be seen how I wanted to be seen, especially as a female comedian. If you just wait around for other people to write like a funny part for you, it's just not going to happen. If you want something to be in your voice, you really need to create that yourself and figure out what that is. And then if you want other people to see that, then, writing really, it needs to go along with it. And then that's also how I got into production, because then once I found my voice and things I wanted to say and projects I wanted to make, to physically make them, again, that's how I got into production. But I knew as a young kid, I always wanted to be on camera. I wasn't the kid that you had to be like, hey, why don't you do that fun thing you do. You know, I'm just like, can everyone be seated? I'm going to dim the lights, for my first piece. So it was always something that I wanted, and comedy kind of finds you.
Right.
You know, of course you want to be seen and be an actress, but then I really found like that comedy was my niche, and maybe it was, you know, I was picked on a lot as a kid. And I think to kind of deflect all that, I made people laugh, and that's how, you know, I became a comedian, and then it just kind of flowed from there.
Cool. I mean, that's actually a very common story we hear, even just from comic book writers, where, you know, it's all about wanting to get your story told and get your voice out there. And, you know, we live in a world now where it's a little bit easier to do than it was, say, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So Josh, I think, so you're the director of the film, but
Yes,
you might
sir.
have a background in a couple other films that our audience might be interested in. You started out doing special effects?
Yeah, visual effects. I mean, I tell people too, like I've always, you know, wanted to make movies, and I feel like I've been making movies my whole life, right? I was still the kid growing up that, you know, if you could do a project at school where you could make a movie and not have to write something or not have to do bookwork, that was me. And, you know, same thing. So I went to school at the University of Texas for radio, television, film. And when I graduated from that, I made my way, you know, out to LA because, you know, there are a lot of independent filmmaking hotbeds around the world. But in my mind, I was always like, if you want to make the biggest movies in the world, you know, you got to be out in LA. And so I've been in LA for about 10 years now grinding. But I think you guys are referring to one of my first big jobs in the industry was I was actually key set PA, which means you're the head of all the PAs, which is the people getting the coffee, the lowest on the totem pole on the call sheet, for a movie called Skyline. And it was like a sci-fi movie about aliens sucking people out of the sky. And that was actually produced, written, directed, and all kind of made by actually a visual effects company. And when we finished that movie, they were like, hey, you know, you were great on set. Do you kind of want to be in the office? Me fresh to LA, I was like, yes, a steady job. That sounds amazing. And so, you know, I started there literally on the front desk. Through that, I learned a program called Autodesk Smoke, which turned into Autodesk Flame. I started being a visual effects editor for them and got the chance, you know, to work on some really, really huge, films. And a lot of the, you know, just to name a few, it's like Pirates of the Caribbean, Avengers, X-Men, Looper, just the list goes on and on and on. You can check my IMDb, but through them got to work on those. And then not only that, when you're the lead, when you're one of like the lead effects houses on these movies, you do a lot of pre-production work too. And actually on set, you know, whether you're taking photos of everything or doing LiDAR scans or measurements for certain things so that the animators can recreate it. So I got to be on set for a lot of huge movies and got to see how, you know, a studio operation works on set and be a part of that crew and, you know, really cut my teeth starting in the visual effects world.
So you kind of brushed over a movie there that, I'm sure everyone in our audience has seen, and that's The Avengers.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say Machete Kills, but
yeah.
I, you know, for certain parts of our audience. Yes.
So
we've always laughed at that. That's hilarious. He brought that one up.
Yeah, Machete Kills. I am a huge Robert Rodriguez fan because he went to University of Texas too. So Machete Kills is a special spot in my heart as well. But yeah, Avengers was one of the first big projects. I mean, that really like getting to see your name at the end of that one. And, you know, for those who don't know out there, there's a reason when you're waiting for that special bonus scene at the end of the credits, it takes so long to get there, is there's so many individual houses and artists that work on these movies that, you know, I mean, point blank, like I feel like with a movie like Avatar, right, that's like 99% CG, every visual effects big house gets a little piece of it just because there's so much work that has to be done before the movie comes out. So it was a pretty surreal moment for me being, you know, a couple of years removed from college and sitting in the theater and seeing my name at the end of Avengers.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious with something like that. I mean, number one, there's always all the secrecy around movies like that, especially the Marvel movies. And you have an idea of, at least of part of the film before it comes out, and you have to hold that in, right? I mean, we've talked to other people who've worked at Marvel, and they've joked about the Marvel snipers or the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. following you around.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely an NDA signed. I've signed so many NDAs that it's like, I definitely, have some stuff or see stuff. And I think that's part of like, you know, the cool factor, right? Is like you're getting to see some of these cuts and see a bunch of scenes like before they're happening, or you're on set even seeing them capture it. And, obviously, you know, you don't want to let anything slip, or point blank, you just, you know, won't have a job.
Yeah. But there's also I think the other side of that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're now creating a world where you're immersed in all these fantastical things, you know, the Hulk running around and aliens coming down and Thor and Loki fighting and all this stuff. And it's so special effects heavy. There has to be a small part of you going, if this is the special effect that looks really bad, I'm never going to hear the end of it.
It's definitely, I mean, like I said, there's so many shots and so many different scenes and sequences, and like, you know, me personally knowing a bunch of artists that did certain, you know, effects in X-Men, or who shot as what, or who did what. And there's definitely that, you know, I just see the amount of time, right? Like you might have one artist work on one sequence or one shot for months and months and months. And like, that's all he did in the whole movie, where these like 5 shots are like these Wolverine claws just to make them look good through this one sequence. And that's just, you know, the nature of the beast, and why these things cost hundreds of millions of dollars is it's just the time and energy and resources. But it is super cool and surreal, right? To see like who gets what shot, or what artist is doing what, or what scene is happening, and kind of get to see the pieces come together from literally, like you're saying, it could be a whole sequence where it's just the talent in their costume or wardrobe, and it's 100% green screen, right? It just like, it's literally creating something out of nothing, which to me is the really cool part.
Cool.
So, Shelley,
yeah.
So how did this whole thing come about? I mean, how did you get to the point where you managed to get Josh in on this, and the storyline itself? I mean, was this something you had kicking around in the back of your brain at some point?
Not at all. So Josh and I had met, and we, you know, I work on the side. I work with kids with autism, and other, abilities. And so, you know, we had been talking, and it's like, you know, we're both in the industry, and I had mentioned the work that I did, which really, you know, intrigued him. And we made a short film together called Dashel, A Journey Through Autism. Oh. And working on that together, it told us, first of all, you know, when you're in production, you know that there's like a certain connection or chemistry you have, and so it's either there, it's not there, or, and Josh and I really worked well together.
After we did that short together, basically, what really intrigued me the most about it was like, we finished this thing and, you know, sent it to some short films, and it's getting in and it's getting screened at different places. And I'm thinking like, okay, this film's kind of run its course. Well, you know, lo and behold, literally every 4 weeks or every month, I'd get another email from Shelley being like, oh, I submitted us to such and such fest in Russia and it got in and it's playing here. Or it'd be like, yo, we're playing in Turkey. And then 3 weeks later, it'd be like, oh, Dashel's going to screen in, you know, Brazil. And so literally that movie, that little short film is probably screened in probably 30 different countries around the world, just because of the sheer willpower of Shelley not taking no for an answer and continuously just submitting it to anywhere and everywhere she could. And so what that told me about Shelley is that, you know, when she's passionate, she's going to lead, and get her stuff screened no matter where, but also she just doesn't take no for an answer, right? Like it's just not in her vocabulary. And so we both sat together and we're like, well, what do we really want to do? And we had another really funny, in my opinion, script that's feature length, and we packaged it. We had some talent attached, and we kept having investors fall through. And so we literally were like, hey, what can we make ourselves? Like, what we should write something that we 100% know that nobody can tell us, no, you can't make this yet. And so that turned into becoming Chasing Molly.
Cool.
So the script was not something I had written. I had another script that I had written, another comedy, and Josh and I had packaged it, and we were working on getting investors for the project. And some investors fell through, and one day it was just like, I can't ask people for money anymore. I can't do it one more day. Let's just start shooting. Let's make a movie that we can make. And so we came up with a story together. And then I wrote the script based on the idea of being able to set ourselves up to be able to actually film the movie. And we could pick off what we knew we could do. And then it just kind of snowballed into getting bigger and bigger talent attached. And, you know, we just wanted it to be a showcase of what we could do. And it turned into this huge project that we still sit back and we can't believe, you know, we really have a full feature that we're so proud of. It was really, really an amazing way that it all kind of came together.
Yeah. Now, how did that happen? Because the talent you got, I mean, you got people from all over the spectrum. And I mean, were these just people that, you know, a friend of a friend, or, you know, a couple agents, or?
No, we didn't have any casting agents. We didn't reach out to anybody's agent because agents, bless their hearts, they want money, you know, so.
Oh, is that how it works?
I don't know. I didn't want to, everyone's minds just were blown just then. Felicia Day, who's a huge talent, we used to perform together. We did improv together. So I reached out to her just personally, and, you know, she's like, I don't, you know, her time is of the essence. I said, I only need you for one day. If you love the story, if you love the script, let me know. I'd love it if you could do it. We'll work around your schedule whenever you have free. So that's Felicia. And then all the comedians that you'll see, like Jim Cashman, who's, like I said, Jamie from Progressive, you know, national treasure, warms the hearts of millions. He's also a comedian, Groundling's friend. So, he was willing to jump on board, and Kurt was a cold call.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we really like, I mean, for people who don't know, you know, how a traditional movie is made, right? Like these big studio movies, or any feature for that matter, is traditionally made back to back, right? You're shooting 40 to 60 days every day, with a couple of days off here and there. And so we knew that we didn't have the money to do a traditional feature film that way. So we primarily structured the script and the story to make sure we could do it ourselves. And when I say that is that, you know, we're like, okay, we live in LA, so the story's going to be based in LA. It's going to take place over like a day, a night, and a day, kind of like sequentially, so that the main characters, when we shoot, right, because we have to take nights and weekends or days off in between our shooting days so we can like get funds or get the crew together. We're just going to have the story be sequential, in the sense that the main characters just show up. They just wear the same stuff. We don't have to worry about wardrobe. We don't have to really worry about script continuity or as are on set. So that way we could just limit the amount of crew. We could get it done the way we knew it needed to be done on our time and our pace. And we also kind of set a rule for ourselves where, like, other characters who aren't the main two in the story, we need to be able to shoot them out in one day. And whether they're in multiple scenes or whatever, we wanted to wrap them in one day because, you know, when you're reaching out to Kurt or other mid-level talent, you know, the one thing that any celebrity has the least of is time. And so being able to go to their managers, their agents, their team, or them and be like, hey, we only need you for half a day. We're not going to have any ADR. We're not going to have any like reshoots, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to have company moves. It's literally, we're going to shoot you out, wrap you, and that's it. It put us in a position to win, right? Like it gave us a better position for them to say yes. And so, you know, Chasing Molly has really been a labor of love. And not only that, but all these things in pre-production that, you know, really were because of budget restraints kind of forced us to be super creative and we structured it so that it put us in a position to get those yeses and get these type of people in the movie.
Cool. Yeah, but the only thing you had to worry about were very loud motorcycles or something.
Exactly.
Shut down a street. You know, we have a pawn shop scene where we couldn't close down their business. So it's open for business, and we had two ladies just shopping for an hour right next to our camera. I mean, we're losing light. I mean, it's going down and I'm freaking out, internally because you can't say anything. This guy's nice enough to let us shoot at his place.
Mhm.
So it's like, you have to be able to also, I think that helps being in an improv background and Josh being, so savvy at all of the different ways of production behind the camera that if we had to, we would scrap something and move somewhere else or be able to adjust it, or only need one take because we're working with people who we know are home run hitters who are going to go in and we only need 1 or 2 takes. Cause if we needed 10 takes in that scene where we're at the pawn shop, we're not going to get it. We don't have the time and, or the
money,
resources.
We just didn't have time. Like a lot of these locations, you rent out a whole location, you shut it down, you're filming a movie there. But for us, right, it's like calling in all the favors. And so, it was so funny. This little lady searching around the store for about 45 minutes and we're trying to shoot around her. And Shelley are like, what are you trying to buy? We'll buy you whatever you want. Just please, like,
what is
get
it?
out of
What
here.
is it?
Like anything. But yeah, that's pretty much been the story for the whole movie. I mean, just little cool stories like that of just, being flexible and like taking what you've learned from guerrilla filmmaking, taking what you've learned from being on huge sets and just kind of like making it work.
So what other kind of, you say there are a lot of little stories. Like, what's the funniest thing that happened?
Oh man. So like, I always tell this story about Kurt, right? Like when we booked Kurt, we're like, oh man, this is great. And so, just being flexible and more about the stars aligning, right? Like we want to get him wardrobe. And so we're like, send us your sizes. We'll get you your wardrobe, blah, blah, blah. He wants to wear his own custom suit in it because we're going to put him in a suit and he'd rather wear the one that fits him the best, which is perfectly acceptable. And then, cut to Kurt being on set and like, I don't want to spoil anything about the movie, but he's like laying on the ground in this like dirty, terrible, dingy LA back alley and like laying all in it. And like, he didn't even bat an eye. Didn't even care, just whatever we wanted, he was game to do. He was a true professional on set and, he's a legend in his own right. And so just stuff like that. And that exact set too was the back lot of, shout out to Reyes RV, let us use their property. It's kind of where they house RVs. And they have this huge backlot parking area. We actually use their office. We use like the pool table as one of their front areas. We use their interior parking area. So made it look like a bunch of different locations in the end. But, they rent RVs. They also rent Star Wagons. And so we're shooting there and Kurt shows up and they're like, hey, let's just turn on one of these little puppet generators and we'll hook up a Star Wagon for you. So Kurt shows up to set. He walks up. His makeup person is in a Star Wagon. There's a trailer waiting for him. It just looks super professional. And it literally is just, like a little bit of luck, a little bit of savviness and just the stars aligning for us. And so, cool things like that.
So,
nice. And just to let everybody know, I mean, we keep mentioning Kurt. Kurt Angle is a 1996 Olympic gold medal winner for, what is it, boxing, I think? Or
wrestling.
For wrestling.
I'm not sure if it's like Greco, freestyle, or what, but he's a wrestling gold medal. He's a multiple-time WWE champ, huge in the WWE, and he's in the Hall of Fame now, and he just actually retired and had his last wrestling match at WrestleMania this year.
Cool. And apparently, if you're doing a movie, he's available. So, okay.
Well, he actually, funny story. So he reveals to us on set that his agents were like, they're not really paying you enough money. I don't know if you should do this. And because he read the script, he actually loved it. That's the reason why he did the movie. So it's not like, I think certain artists are obtainable if they believe in the project, because at the end of the day, and as an actress myself, I want to be part of projects I'm proud of. So, he wants to also make content that he's proud of. And so I think that's also important being in the industry is to, yes, there are things you do for money, but then there are things that you actually, want people to see you in. So an independent film like ours, the only draw was the fact that the story and the writing and the content, that was the only draw for him. It wasn't, a luxury setup. We were able to get him the trailer, but it's not like we had, what he was used to being on, $1 million stages and stuff like that. So it was really, like Josh said, it's a lot of ingenuity, creativity, and then the stars aligning for us. And I think when you do pursue something you love, And it's the right time and the right project that, kind of the universe and life, kind of comes to your aid and is on your side. At least that's what I found with this movie. So we're really fortunate.
So, I have a question, and I really hope this doesn't offend anyone. I know sometimes writers get offended when they're compared to other people.
Really hate how this question is starting. I gotta be honest.
Sometimes people get upset when they're compared to other writers and directors. But was there a Kevin Smith influence for either of you? Because I kind of got that vibe with some of the humor in the movie.
As being independent filmmakers, if you don't, nod or bow down to Kevin Smith, it's like, he is the godfather of independent film. I think what you're seeing is that the dialogue feels kind of real. It doesn't feel cookie cutter. Mm-hmm. We wanted to be, Josh and I are used to making content or being on camera or behind the camera and making things that are really safe or appropriate for TV, commercial appropriate. And it was really liberating to make a film that wasn't appropriate, like for anybody. So getting to have dialogue that felt like, whoa, we haven't heard that before. Can you say that? I think that's kind of the similarity. It felt very, and especially Clerks, like at the time, their dialogue, you're like, I wasn't expecting that. Whoa, you can say that. And so I definitely think it has that kind of vibe. And I think Kevin Smith was creative in the way that he filmed. He didn't have a huge budget either. So you had to use what you could get. Mm-hmm. One of the scenes you'll see in this really nice, cool smoke shop, Josh happened to be going in there. We won't say why. He happened to be going in there, and the guy he overheard a conversation about them wanting to film something, and he said, "Oh, you want to film something? We have a movie." And then, we said, "Okay, let's have like 2 scenes with this character in this movie." So then I write those 2 scenes, and then we shoot in that location. So it's what you have, you use everything you have.
Right.
It's like the Depression. Nothing goes to waste. Whatever you have, you use.
Yeah,
and
every part of the grapefruit, right?
Everything.
Every part of the grapefruit.
And then after that, if you need something, I've never heard the every part of the grapefruit analogy, but I get it. I get it.
I will just say I am a huge Kevin Smith fan. Clerks, Mallrats, Jay and Silent Bob, and there wasn't any direct nods to him or anything in the way we were shooting, but I think Shelley spoke to it about just the guerrilla filmmaking aspect. He's kind of spearheaded that and started his career that way. And, I think the funny thing is we always get the comments of people being like, is this a sequel to Chasing Amy? And it's like, man, I wish it was. I wish it was. And other than just the name, no, but definitely I do enjoy Kevin Smith movies.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Like I said, and I'm not trying to make a direct comparison or anything, just some of the humor definitely had that vibe, some of the feeling of the film, and I kind of appreciated that.
Oh, thank you. We also, in some of the scenes, I work with a lot of improvisers. So when we had, improvisers that we knew were just going to be super creative and funny, we let them go and improvise. And I got to improvise with them. So a lot of the dialogue doesn't feel like scripted, like someone said it 100 times. It's because they haven't. So I'm sure that, I don't know exactly, if there was any improvised dialogue in, Kevin Smith's movies, but for us, we really wanted it to feel fresh. Mm-hmm. And when we did have improvisers on set that we knew were going to nail it, we would, shoot everything we had written. And then from there, did some takes that were improvised. So there's a lot of that feel in the movie as well.
Is that something that's important to you, having an improv background, is to give actors a room to breathe and to, improvise scenes?
Yeah. So also getting, my friends that, or like Felicia or anyone to get on set, part of the lure was like, listen, this is not going to be something where I'm going to grill you on I want it to feel like you, and I want you to have fun making this. And then I don't want it to be like, hi, how are you? Good, sir. Good to see you. I don't want it. If it feels like it's written, I'm immediately turned off. And I think that audiences, they can sense that too. If something feels really scripted and heavily set up, he's going to walk into this. And for me and comedy, I don't like that vibe. I like the feel of it, like, very natural and organic. So I do think it's important, and also for the talent that we got in this movie, that they were able to relax and just have fun with it. Like, how would you say that?
We definitely didn't have a bunch of, former groundlings and main, UCB people and these big comedians to have them come out and just not do what they're the best at, right? So we would do a couple to book, and once we did the script and we knew we had that in the can if we needed it, it's like, all right, no holds barred, guys, let's get down, and let people just like go crazy on set. And I think that definitely comes across in the film.
Which leads me to my next question, the pawn shop scene. How much of that was improvised? Because some of those, who was that? Fitzpatrick? Kirkpatrick.
Kevin Kirkpatrick. Yeah.
Some of that felt like he's making this up on the spot.
Well, I'm sure he would be very flattered, as am I. That scene in particular, we didn't have the leeway room to take the takes,
right.
improvised takes, because of where we were at. So I'm very flattered, but that scene was a written scene, and but yeah, I mean, that's also the gift of hiring an improviser, is that they make everything feel natural,
right?
And that's what I think
it's so funny because, like, to me, the most improvised thing about that scene was mainly like the items that Shelley that Molly was selling to him, because it's funny that it's like, what props do we have lying around? Okay, great. That's what she's selling.
Right.
Like something like that, like the pearls and the candlestick holders and, great,
Right. So okay, we have this. So now I need to write something funny that he would say based on what things I had, like from my bubbies, like old.
Yeah, it's like, I have this old tennis racket in my trunk. That'd be cool. How about that? And then let's riff off of how sweaty and stinky it is. Great.
Right. I guess that's what I'm alluding to here, is that really makes the whole thing feel very organic. So
cool. Yeah. I mean, that's what we were going for, obviously. And it's just, like I said, it's kind of the necessity of just like not having a prop master or set decorators or all these, key positions to handle all that for you. It's kind of like you're just like limited by what you have, but you just make it work.
Right.
And the limitations it also was like at the same time liberating, because we didn't have forever to set up a shot to do that. So everything that's on camera, like the creativity got to be king. Like we really got to push the envelope. No one was telling us, hey, you can't really say that, or I don't know, if your target audience is going to appreciate that. And on the same token, like we weren't forced to put in anything we didn't like. I mean, there's things that we didn't put in because they weren't what we thought were, of the highest caliber. Whereas if we had other people, above us, they'd be like, well, you need to put that in. You got to have filler there. You need to have that person in there and this and that. So we didn't have any of those constraints. So what the limitations on the budget, we were able to then, balance it out by having a lot of creative freedom and that kind of stuff. So it did balance out. And then the final product feels that way. It doesn't feel like, wow, this movie got made because they had a ton of money for special effects or 75 celebrities in the movie. It got made because people believed in what we were doing and in the script and the story, and seeing it was something totally different than what they've worked on before.
Right. I'm also kind of curious, in today's world, of course, when it comes to comedy, there are critics who say that women shouldn't do raunchy comedy. And of course there is a good handful of that in this movie. What do you say to critics who say stuff like that?
I say, well, when they make their movies, they can make the movies they want. It's like, I feel that especially that's why I need to, have my voice out there. This is my sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, and there's a lot of women that when they watch the movie, they're not like, oh my heavens, my word, what is this?
Right.
I mean, they love it. They're finally, So, when critics say that, I think it's like, it's just another way that, women are being limited in how they want to be seen or in the roles that they want to play. And typically the woman is not the hero, they're the damsel in distress, and in this movie, the woman is the hero. And it's typically not, a raunchy comedy, that's left up for the men to play. And then the women can run around with their boobs hanging out that's the women's role in those comedies.
Right.
The nun or the prostitute. So it's especially liberating to be able to say, like, this is what women think. Not every woman. Okay. But this is how we, this kind of sense of this is our sense of humor.
Right.
I know I'm not alone in it, but we have
for sure.
I
think that there's always the term guys like locker room talk or whatever. And I think that there's definitely girls out there that can be just as raunchy as guys. And so, it's okay to embrace a little bit of that sometimes.
Oh yeah. No. I mean, my wife was raised by, 2 truck drivers. Both her parents were truck drivers. So she has a mouth on her and she loved Bridesmaids, and I always point that out as an example of when they say, women can't be funny with raunchy comedy. I'm like, that was a big hit. So I don't understand your criticism. So.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that's a perfect example. Like Kristen Wiig, I've improvised with her before and, she wrote that movie.
Right.
And it's like, that's, when Bridesmaids came out, it was also kind of like a victory moment to female comedians because people are always like, well, it's not going to make money or they're not funny or no one's going to come out and see it. And it just kind of proved like the opposite, that we do want to see that in men and women like Bridesmaids. It wasn't just like, quote unquote chick flick.
Right. Exactly.
Like I personally can't stand romantic comedies. I get frustrated. I get annoyed. I'm not a romantic person, but I think women are different things. And so we should celebrate all of the ways that we're different. We aren't one thing. We're not prudes or the extreme where we're super promiscuous. We can just be people with that kind of a sense of humor, what we think is funny.
Exactly.
So, so Shelley, you're still doing improv too right now, right? Like, or are you like moving to writing now, or just going to continue doing everything that you can?
Well, I love performing improv is something that I'll always do. No matter how much work I get, even Jerry Seinfeld, he does stand up because he loves stand up. I love improv. I love being in the moment. It's very freeing and it feels very, creative for me. So I still perform regularly. I'm at a theater called Improv for the People.
In San
West
Diego,
Los
right?
Angeles. Say that again?
San Diego?
No, West Los Angeles.
Oh,
We're
West Los
at
Angeles. Okay.
the Pico Playhouse. And we have shows there every month. And I think it's important, like for other actors, they say like, well, how do you get started? And it's not all about auditioning and booking roles. That's one small piece of acting. Get really good and proficient at your skills. So I spent a lot of years performing, and performing live and getting really confident and getting really good at what I did and making these connections so that when I went out to make a feature, I already had all these people who had seen me perform and believed in what I was doing and liked my comedy enough that they would be a part of the movie. So it was really like a career span of performing live and doing all those things to be able to have like a culmination like Chasing Molly. But I think it's also really important to not just get caught up in auditioning or writing, to still have that creative outlet. And remember why you got in this business. I'm in it because I love, I love making people laugh. So I really need to, on a consistent basis, like have a place where I'm doing that. Or I feel kind of, stuck. So I definitely believe like you should be performing and being creative as often as possible.
But improv is kind of like the hardest, isn't it? I mean, like I think about it when you watch a show like Whose Line Is It Anyway, and you're trying to keep up with it, and I can't imagine being able to come up with something within seconds, and I know that it's more collaborative for like a large improv team where you play off of each other, so it gives you time to move in with and I don't know, build on each other. But it's just it's not something that is the hardest type of comedy, isn't it?
I mean, most comedians, if you're in comedy, improv kind of terrifies them. But for me, I like the not knowing of what's going to happen and making something up on the spot. I was fortunate enough to get to perform with the Whose Line Is It Anyway guys, out here at the LA Hollywood Improv. And Ryan Stiles actually trained me, and I got to perform with him with the Second City alumni. So it was sink or swim. I mean, when you're on stage with them, if you're not like super balls out and going as hard as you can, you'll drown. So, it was like, you either do this or you don't. And I think that fearlessness has kind of, really helped me in being able to tackle things. Like, well, if you can do this and you can survive and you can be on stage with the best of the best and hold your own, then, what's going to stop you? So, I think that, and they, like I said, as far as the Godfathers, I mean, the Godfathers of improv, are the Whose Line guys, and they're so quick and so smart. So if you allow yourself to be intimidated by it, then you won't make it. So I really had to learn very early on how to be fearless in any environment. But yes, to answer your question, most people are terrified of improv. I love it, but it's not, I mean, you either have that skill or you don't. I think people feel more comfortable doing stand up where they know they're set. It's their same thing every time they go up. For me, stand up, I did do stand up and it was fine. But I didn't like doing the same thing every week, even though it was different people. It felt, I don't know. I felt like a hack. I feel like did the same material twice. They're like, you're supposed to do that, Shelley. You're supposed to keep doing your set over and over again. But to me, it just felt like, I was like, well, I already just said that last week. So, I just love doing improv. You don't do it for the money, especially out here in LA. It's kind of like pay to play, actually. So you got to do something you really love. And for me, that's always been improv.
Cool.
And
go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I was gonna ask Josh. So then, are you at the point in your career? Are you trying to transition more into directing now, full time?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, it's crazy in LA, and I think in the industry as a whole, right? They try to pigeonhole you and make you real specialized at one thing, right? And so I feel like in the last decade that I've been out here, I've literally done every single crew position under the sun, and that's only helped me, now as a director figure out and know, what everybody's supposed to be doing and what they're doing and how to manage all that. And, I've been, after I was working for that visual effects company for a long time, I've been freelancing, whether that was DPing to operating to location sound mixing, and through all that had a bunch of gear, and that turned into most of our gear for Chasing Molly. But yeah, currently I'm commercially directing for a company called OM Digital, and we've been doing, a lot of cool shoots, whether they're, it's a lot of digital content for, NFL, Cadillac, some big clients. And so it's been really, really awesome. But at the same time, I'm continually writing, continually pitching and trying to get more projects packaged. And, like we said, Chasing Mall is more of a showcase for me and Shelley to try to once again get funding for our other film and package it and get that one up and going. So it's just, this has been great, but it's just, it's not the end for us. We're going to keep grinding and just, make another movie.
And I think that's also like, you don't make one movie because you want to retire.
Mm-hmm.
You make a movie because you want to keep making movies. So, we have this other comedy that we're going to make next, and then there's a sci-fi idea. We have a kids movie. So you just make it because you want to keep going and keep making more projects. So we always have stuff in the pipeline that are ready to make. I think for me, when I write, I want to write something that I know I'm going to produce and have seen. So that's, I think Josh and I really, propel together, and the goal would be then to keep doing what we're doing just on a bigger scale. And not maybe having someone else, on set and getting maybe getting that script supervisor.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
I'm always
for sure.
Lights next time, right? We're going to get a lot of lights because I've seen my face with like lights, and I'm like, wow, great.
It was so funny because we had our old movie that we had investors fall through on, and we, started making Chasing Molly just almost out of frustration with that one. Now going back to try to recircle and get that one percolating again, we realized we probably need, 5 times as much money as we were trying to get on the first time around. So, we're definitely, full steam ahead, whether I'm, no matter what I'm doing, I'm always creatively trying to think about new ideas and how to make them into movies.
Cool.
Oh, so this was a real learning for you how much money did this one come out to more than you thought, or?
Way more.
Yeah, more for sure.
And post-production just seemed like just a fountain of needing, and you learn, you're like, okay, so the sound mix I have, what's a 5.1? What is that? That's going to cost us what? But, you don't really realize, but now after we've made Chasing Molly and we know, what it costs also to have like big name talents on set. I mean, they're expecting certain things, and even the ones that they know they're doing an independent film. I mean, you have to feed these people. You've got to, and it can't just be me getting like the sushi from Ralph's or those sandwiches. I mean, it's got to be nice. So, it's definitely important for us to keep going. And we know that we're going to need a lot more money for the next one, but this just proves to us how everything came together, that we are on the right path and we are doing the right thing.
Yeah. And this one obviously was extremely low budget. And, so it's been, I've been saying it's very, very lucky and humbling to sell it. And thanks, Gravitas for putting it out and buying the film. But, this is definitely not the end. And it was, you almost feel like you are a magician and pulled off like this huge magic trick and like pulled a rabbit out of a hat. But then at the same time, you have to realize like all that time and energy for the last decade of like being, a PA and then being, the camera operator and being a DP and being the sound mixer and all these different sets, whether they're $100 million movies or favors for your friend's project, you're stacking up all that little bits of knowledge to put it all together for your film. And that was Chasing Molly for us.
Yeah, we felt like we had really paid our dues, industry wise, like doing everything, and I've done so many people's, projects for no money because you believe in it. So it was kind of like really good karma coming back to us, on Chasing Molly, where, we had to be great producers and work with and be as creative as possible. But then we also had people that came on board. I had a friend of mine who works for a huge company, major studio, and he did the final, surround sound for our movie because he's because I built up this friendship. And so things like that, where we just happened to get really great talent, great post, great everything. And it was either because someone was doing us a favor because we had helped them out in the past, or because they really just wanted something that they believed in, that they were proud of. So it was a culmination of really paying our dues to be able to, pull off something like this. I mean, it does really feel like you're pulling off like a magic act, but, as Josh says, it's like, well, this is what we came here to do. So, right. It feels, but it's not lost on us that how many people came out here or are working on, making movies, and that we have ours out. It's not lost on us how fortunate we are. So we feel really, really, we're just really grateful, right now that we have something that we're proud of us. That's us. That really says, us.
Yeah, it was a little super surreal moment for me, probably like 4 weeks ago when the film came out. Just, my parents sending me that selfie photo of them with the Blu-ray in their hands that they ordered from BestBuy.com, and it has my name at the end that says director. So it's been a cool cool feeling now, and it's been a cool month for sure.
And how have you found the reception? Because I know it's sold. I read that it was sold out at Best Buy and Target and all that. And
yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, right? Because like you kind of just get, for those who don't know, right, when you sell a movie, right, it's not yours anymore. Like the distribution company who bought it, they get it. So we, only get the sales updates very sporadically and stuff, and so you don't truly know how well it's doing, right? Because it's not like, I guess if you're a big movie and you're in theaters and you see the box office, that's a real quick way to know. But for our film that's made primarily VOD, it's kind of like a waiting game. And so just like the film, me and Shelley just, you keep your nose down and just keep grinding. And, whether it's Walmart says sold out or not, you just still try to do as much press, try to tell as many people. And it's definitely, at the beginning, obviously, like you start seeing, all your friends bought it, all their families and friends, and they're commenting and telling you how great it is. And you're like, but is it really, guys? Like, thanks. And then as the longer it goes, you start seeing, someone's post, and then, Shelley will text me and be like, did you see this one? And be like, do you know this person? I'll be like, I don't know them. And it's like, great. So we know it's just a stranger who saw it and liked it, and they commented this, and it's super cool feeling. That's, we just feel really, really lucky.
Yeah, and it's, because we're an independent film, like we don't have a PR, we don't have like PR guns like working for us. Like we're the PR team. So, I read every comment. I read every single comment. And it is like when I hear a comment like, oh, I've been hearing a lot about this movie. I'm like, what? They've been hearing a lot about this movie? Okay. And every little compliment, we really cherish it. I mean, this wasn't a machine that put together a movie. Most movies, you do one small part, right? You're maybe the actor, you're maybe the writer, you're maybe the director, maybe the producer, the editor. We were everything to this movie. Mm-hmm. So I think that's part of the reason why nothing fell through, because we were in charge of everything. But, also we're so much more attached to it. So, it's not like, well, they didn't like the writing, so who cares? They liked my part. We're attached to every piece of it. If they didn't like the production, I'm insulted. Thankfully, the reception from what I've been reading has been good. Everyone's like, you get like a troll every now and again, and Josh and I go back and forth because Josh says I'm not supposed to respond, and it takes everything I have in my power to not respond to the trolls.
Please don't respond to any trolls.
No, I don't, but boy, is it hard not to. Like, hey.
Well, I'm sure no matter how good the movie
you don't like the poster? That's my baby you're talking about there. I want to get kind of like, get the Khaleesi moment where I burn down a village if someone makes a comment they don't like my poster. I'm like, what do you mean I'll burn this whole village down if you don't like my poster? But then I take a breath. And, you just have to be happy. Well, listen, if a stranger's watching your movie, seeing your ad, that means it's out there. So, we really don't know, numbers at this point. It's just about either way, we have to do what we do, which is, keep grinding and working on building a network of people who want to find Chasing Molly. I keep saying to myself, as much as I want to get Chasing Molly out, there's as many people that want something different and want to laugh. We need to laugh in this world. It's a lot of bad news. And, to have an independent film that's a really kind of a in-your-face comedy, it's kind of rare. And I know people want to see that. So I'm just bridging the gap between people who really want to see it and, me trying to get it to them. So I'm keeping that thought in my mind too, that people really want to are looking for this content as well.
Right.
Well, and the nice thing about Trolls is they've usually bought the movie and watched it all the way through, so they know exactly what to say to you.
That is exactly what I tell Shelley every time. I'm like,
says that all the time.
Literally, if a troll makes a comment, I feel so good inside that person not only watched the movie, but then took the time out of their day to get on a computer and comment about the movie. I mean, as a director, that's all you want. Like, whether it's good or bad, I just want you to see my work. Like, I just want you to see our movie and all the time and energy we spent into it. And the point, and even that you had an opinion about that and took the time to post it is just makes me feel good.
Well, and better yet, paid you for your work.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
he keeps saying that. He's like, we made Shelley, they bought it. That means we paid money. I'm like, I want to reach into this person's soul and just dig it out and figure what's going on before I put it back together again. But we differ on this opinion. So we, we'll just agree to disagree at this point. But yeah, it's just really exciting. And when you do read from somebody who you don't know, like you really spend your whole career sharing your work kind of with friends and family. So the fact that it's out to the masses, on this grand scale, feels just, it's almost overwhelming, but in a really cool way. And, we're celebrating, but at the same time, we know that, there's a lot of hard work ahead of us. We're just that we want to make sure the movie gets out there. And that's why we're connecting with, podcasts and like yourself who are already, have a fan base and are already making content that we connect with. So when we bridge the two, reaching out to you guys, we've won in our opinion.
Right. So you had mentioned, you had your other project that you're going to get back into now and a couple of ideas you had floating around. Is this a working relationship you guys are going to have going forward for the foreseeable future?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Of course. Yeah, I mean,
I'm glad you both answered with the same answers.
I was going to say, if John says no, I'm going to be so crushed right now. I'll be like, well, this is news. No, we made this for our next comedy. This is a comedy I had written, and it's about, a girl who fails at love while trying to succeed in Hollywood. So we're going to be taking on Hollywood and kind of the female comedic perspective on everything that's been going on. It was a script I had written, and then when I revisited, so much has happened. As we all know, the scandals and Me Too and everything else. And so I went back into the script and rewrote it with a new perspective on what needed to be, what I really wanted to say, at this point, in our history. And, now the script is like, oh, I get why it was made now as opposed to when it was made, 3 years ago when we were pitching it. I know why it needs to be now. It's timely now and people are ready to hear this now. So it makes sense, in the whole scheme of your life and, the whole snowflake that's originally yours, your life. It makes sense now to me why it's happening now and not when I had first written it and not when Josh and I had first, worked on getting investors.
Yeah, we'll be, working together for a while for the foreseeable future. As Shelley said, we got, a whole nother, script packaged, ready to go. And, 3 or 4 other pitches, ideas that are being fleshed out. And then, we're both creative people. Obviously, I have, different scripts and other projects going as well. And so it's kind of, it's kind of like you're constantly working and being creative, and that only feeds your other projects and everything you're working on. And so we'll definitely be working together for the foreseeable future.
Whew, I didn't know where that was going to go. It seemed like he was seeing other people, he was dating other projects. I didn't like that, but I'm glad we ended up. Foreseeable future sounds good. Sounds strong.
So I'm kind of curious. You guys seem like very busy people, with everything that you're doing, creating movies, writing scripts, looking for investors. Do you guys have any downtime, and what kind of things do you like to do in your downtime?
Yeah, I mean, in my downtime recently, primarily I've been playing disc golf a lot. That's about it. If I'm not taking my dog to the disc golf course to clear my mind, that's pretty much the bulk of it. And other than that, working a lot.
Yeah, for me, downtime is not something, I feel like I love what I'm doing, so I don't really need to take a break from it. But, I really I like giving back a lot. I volunteer at a shelter. And I work with kids with autism. So for me, I like to fill my time. I don't like sitting around being bored, with stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I love watching movies, and I was raised by a television set. So, I kind of enjoy indoor activities. I'm not out and about like, oh, I'm hitting the slopes and then you'll see me riding a wave. No, I'm going to be inside watching HBO probably.
Well, maybe not HBO. I mean, Game of Thrones is over, so.
I know, but I'll find something. Don't worry.
They just announced.
I'll be watching Chasing Molly is what I'll be watching.
There you go. They just introduced had a trailer for the next season of Westworld. Anyone else?
Yeah, I love sci-fi stuff. Anything that's like science fiction, I like watching.
Yeah, I'm interested. I mean, they have a full big lineup coming up. I love all those promos, right? Like as Game of Thrones is going out, just trying to not get people to leave. And they got a bunch of big shows coming out. I'm really interested in the new Watchmen. I really love, obviously the Watchmen feature and the comic, and the graphic novel. So I'm interested to see their version.
Yeah, no, I'm curious as well. It looks good. We shall see. Don Johnson is back, so there's that.
Yeah, Don.
Wow, that's a huge relief for all of us. You know,
we were worried. Where's he been?
There for a second. I'll sleep well tonight. I'll tell you that.
So, as you said, it's an independent film. It's being distributed VOD. How can people out there see the movie if they want to see it?
Yeah, so we are pleased if anyone, if you want to help us, support independent cinema, please, you can check out Chasing Molly literally anywhere you can buy or stream a movie online. Pretty much if you have a TV set or cable and want to buy a movie through there, Comcast, Spectrum, Time Warner, Cox, literally literally everywhere. And then, Amazon, Fandango.com, Redbox, Vudu, the list is huge. So literally if you want to get the movie physical copy, if you want a DVD or a Blu-ray, it's, Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, Target, Barnes & Nobles, all those, and more.
Anything that you said you've got plenty of other things coming up. Anything they should be watching out for in the future? And where should they subscribe to in order to get notified when your next project comes out?
Cool. Yeah. I post most of my stuff on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. My handle is @Sutherland Films. That's @ SUTHERLANDFILM. And most of it is posted to Instagram. And, right now it's mostly commercial work for me. So yeah, all those who want to see some behind the scenes from set and all the stuff, those shenanigans, they're posted there.
For me, Shelley Pack, SHELLEY PACK. I perform live, out here in West Los Angeles, and, I'm at Improv for the People. So if you want to come see live comedy, and stay tuned because Josh and I will be having another movie for you guys to watch real soon.
Cool.
And of course, if our audience would definitely want to watch this movie for Felicia Day. But I also, if you were ever wondering, is Jamie from the Progressive commercials actually funny and a good actor? This is the perfect movie to watch for that.
Yes, I can't speak highly enough about Jim on set. He was so funny and amazing. And it's also a funny story. Like I when the ads were going up, Shelley, a lot of the comments were like, "Oh my God, is that Jamie from the Progressive ads? Oh my gosh!" And people would be like, "Look, good for Jamie. He's stepping up. He's going to feature films." And I was like, "Man, if you guys knew how much money we did not pay him and how much he makes for national commercials, you would tell him to go right back to commercials." But yeah, he definitely did us a favor. Is obviously a personal friend of Shelley's, and he killed it on set. I can't speak more highly of Jim Cashman for sure.
And cool. So we're out of like an hour now. So the question that we normally wrap up on is, and we'll start with Shelley. How do you measure success?
Oh, wow. For me, I measure it by still being able to do what I love to do. So the fact that I've always been able to, be able to pursue acting and make things that I'm proud of, I consider myself successful. But as an overachieving Jew, I probably never will see myself as successful enough. So, I think there's that bit of like being happy where you are and appreciating where you are, but never being completely like, well, I'm done. Always having that hunger inside of you to do more. And I also find myself, successful, obviously, in relationships or in, charity or giving back. I find myself to be very fulfilled in that way as well, which, creates to the whole feeling of being successful. But yeah, I think that that probably was skirted around your question, but I think it was close enough. We'll take it.
Right.
You'll take it.
We'll keep that take.
You're going to keep that one. Yeah. Print that.
And how about you, Josh?
Yeah, very, very similar answer, right? Like, I think once you realize that the way you measure success is, based on you, right? And not anyone else. And you stop letting other people kind of dictate if you are successful or something. Then that's when you have it all figured out. And so I do that by setting small goals and working towards those. And once they're achieved, it's not like, hey, we've hit a certain achievement, like it's time to party or not focus or anything. It's more just like, okay, what's the next little thing, and just keep slowly climbing that ladder. And pretty soon you'll realize that, you're very, very high off the ground.
Cool. I like that answer.
Yeah, yours had like a cool metaphor at the end. What the hell did that come?
Well, you got asked first, so he had more time.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah. I was like really like washed away by his analogy there, but that's fine, Josh. That's great. I can't get a compliment from you. You seem to roll off the tongue when they ask you about that. That's fine. No big deal.
Are we sure this relationship's going to last?
Yeah. But that's a great thing.
Call me right after this.
I definitely will. I always do. Like, no, we obviously have a lot of love for each other, and it's nice. And we're very, and we just want to also just take the time to thank you guys for, having us on and supporting our film. And it really means a lot to us, that you would do that. So we're really grateful.
Oh, no.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us on and taking time out of your day to interview us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. Thank you for coming on again. Like, it's a shame JD, wasn't here this week because number one, he's a wrestling fan, so he would have loved all the stories. Also, he's an independent film, or used to be an independent filmmaker as well, so he would have had a lot more insight for this. So he's going to be kicking himself that he missed this one. But along those lines, we love talking to creative people from all aspects. So this was a great chat. We really enjoyed it.
Yep, can't wait to see what you're going to do next.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Well, boys and girls, I think that's a great place to put a pin in it this week. So as always, thanks for listening, and don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.